Hey guys, Load354 here, joining in with the 5 Awesome Transformers guys now that you're doing generalised subjects. I'm jumping in a little bit late on this one, but I thought it would be a nice one to introduce myself. So we're talking about reissues and and I'm going to bring it on to why different media gets reissued. So a lot of things to cover, so let's jump straight in. Comic books. Comic books start off as single issue comics, which are the little things you think of when you think comic books, classic little one-off magazines. These then get reissued into trade paperbacks, which are compilations of between 4 and 8 of the single issues brought together to make a collection book. They then might get reissued if a movie comes out of it, such as Watchmen. You'll then find they'll reissue the comic and put it in a lot more of the basic shops so that the average Joe can get a hold of it, and they'll quite often put on a movie cover with the live action cover on it so that people can relate to it more and feel that they're buying something related to a film rather than a comic book. So that's a reissue. And then you have your classics reissues, which are older stories told, marketed for interest, and they will quite often have at the start a story so far, and at the end have a lot about sort of the writers and artists, and if you enjoyed this book, please read, and sketch art, and sort of make a bit more about not just the story but about when it was made and why it was written, etc. So that's some of the reissuing of comic books. Next up is board games and puzzles. Obviously you start off with reissues, where a game is a classic game, it's very, very popular, so they bring it out again and they'll maybe do it in a fancy collector's box. So that's one version of a reissue. You then get them keeping games up to date, so things like sort of with Atmosphere, where they have to put a DVD in because VHS is out obsolete, and they'll maybe change the character and make it a bit more comfortable for parents and less scary. Classic puzzles, you reissue them because there's no time when people don't want them. Again, then you get rule changers, so things like RPGs get changed quite a lot, because whilst playing the game you realise that because they're complex rule systems with lots and lots and lots of rules, unlike very simple games like, say, Monopoly, where it's just Monopoly. Because it's so big and complex, they keep finding new ways to streamline and simplify it, and also the story maybe gets streamlined and collated and made easier. So a lot of things like role-play games get streamlined and reissued as, I think they're on like the 4th odd edition of Dungeons and Dragons, I can't remember now, but lots of editions. And then you have collecting games which reissue themselves all the time. Things like, most guilty party would be Magic the Gathering, who bring out new sets of cards every year, so that because the game revolves around buying cards, if there's only X amount of cards, then people have bought them all and they've made all the decks they could make, so there's no point. So they have to bring out hundreds of cards each year and make them stronger and better, and make your last year's cards obsolete to make you buy more, to make you buy more cards and keep playing the game, because with the games like Magic, once you've built a deck, it either works or it doesn't, and that's the end of it. You've also got the same thing with things like Monster Apocalypse and other things like that, like War Machine or Warhammer, where they are continuously changing the rules to streamline them, but are also bringing out new armies and new factions and new units to make you want to buy more, because it's not like a board game where you buy a box and then you're done, and there might be an expansion which you don't need to buy, because it's an army building game. You need to build that army, so you want to buy all these units. So that's board games and puzzles. Movies, TV and cinema. Now, first of all, with this one is obviously reissuing, which is making shiny box sets on Blu-ray and DVD with fancy extras, so that either people want to re-buy the movies if they bought them individually in the first hand, so that you can have them in the nice case with all the extras, or so that if people missed it the first time but maybe saw the third one in the cinema and enjoyed it, they can just pick up the lot and get the whole story. The other thing that they do is obviously reissue and rebrand. They've been doing it a lot with DVD because it's a much more compact medium than VHS, is classic TV series, and bringing them out in box sets so that you can get the full story. In the cinema, they're doing, the big talk at the moment is obviously Star Wars 3D and Titanic 3D. And I agree and think they should do more of this. The two examples, the reason why I have for saying this is in the last year, couple of years, they brought back out in the cinema Back to the Future and Jurassic Park for anniversaries. Now, I've never properly watched Back to the Future because it came out when I was super young, if born at all. But seeing it in the cinema was amazing, because I didn't just watch it at home on the TV and go, oh, that was nostalgic. It was this big event with full cinema experience, and it made the movie better. Same with Jurassic Park. I've seen Jurassic Park. I remember Jurassic Park. I'd watched it recently before going and seeing it at the cinema, so was a bit unsure on whether I'd enjoy it. And I did. It was so much better in the cinema because all the sound feels right, and you know, you've got all the things like the bass rumble which makes you feel excited, etc. So I think more classic movies should be put on in the cinema a lot more often. I think they should do it, you know, they should once a week have an old film coming back, because wouldn't it be cool to see RoboCop or Terminator 2 in the cinema again? Or, you know, classic films, you know, even the old black and white stuff and things. It would be awesome. Go and see all the Hammers in the cinema. That would be cool. So, movie and cinema reissuing, yes, I approve. Here's a random one for you. Microphones. This is an AKG C1000S, general all-purpose electrite recording microphone. Very, very good quality, always useful in the recording studio as an all-rounder microphone. Now, these have been around for years and years and years and years and years, or the C1000 has been. And then they stopped making it because it was an old microphone. But everyone complained because these were really handy and they lasted years and years and years, and new guys opening up studios wanted to buy these for their studios. Older guys wanted more because theirs had fallen apart after 20 years of hard service. So what they did was they pulled out the schematics, upgraded it a bit so that it had a better frequency pickup, and made some little heads that you can put on to change the polar pattern, etc. And brought it out as the C1000S, the new improved model. So even microphones get reissued. Just thought you'd be interested. Now to get into reissuing as quite complex strategies. First, people guilty for being really, really cunning with their reissuing and rebranding. Doctor Who. Why? Because the main character is allowed to change and still be the main character. And he changes with the times. So you can have, you know, he started off as the old man who was correct for that timeline, and then he became the alien who was correct for that timeline, and now he's the sexy guy because that's correct for the modern day and age. So they can, and through doing that and having this show being able to completely change cast while still having the main character intact, gives them the perfect excuse to completely rebrand the show every few years and have, you know, and depending on the producers or the directors at the time and the scriptwriters, means they can have it be more about horror or more about romance or more about science fiction or more about history, because of the fact that the core storyline is you can go anywhere and do anything. So that's a really clever way of reissuing and remarketing a product, and only they could get away with it, because it's, if anyone tried to do similar, they'd get shot down for mimicking Doctor Who. Just saying. Now then, the final one I want to talk about is for reissuing, especially the people who are most guilty for it. Disney, by a long shot, because they have what's known as the Disney Vault, which is basically them locking away movies so that you can't get them. They will bring out a movie in a shiny new edition, such as the Diamond editions, which are coming out at the moment. Nice shiny Blu-rays with all remastered and redone and looking pretty, with all the special features, and they will bring that out, and it'll be available for a year, and then they'll put it in the vault and recall all the things in the shop, all the DVDs and Blu-rays in the shop, and you can't buy it anymore unless you get it second hand. And then they do it again, and it's out for a year, and then it goes away, and then they do it again, and then they do it again, until you come full circle, and in 7 years time, 5 to 7 years time, you get the original back. And it's genius. A lot of people complain about it, but it actually works really well, because you have a year. If you're interested, buy it. But what it means is, if you miss it, you're going to wait, so you've got all that anticipation. And even if you buy it, you'll want to buy it when it comes out again, because it's been redone and is shiny and new with loads of new features, and it's almost like experience the movie in a new way. Example for us is Bambi. I got the missus the Bambi DVD way back, you know, good 5 years ago, when it came out and was a big issue, and then I think it was last year they brought out Bambi on Blu-ray, and it was a big thing. We'd forgotten about the Bambi DVD. It sat there collecting fluff for years, whereas now it came on Blu-ray. I was like, oh wow, look, that's an exciting new reissue of it. Let's get it. It's in the new format with the new special features, with the new remastering. It looked gorgeous, by the way. So that, for reissuing, Disney are the guilty party, because they've made they have made this marketing strategy of doom around it. So I think that's plenty enough waffle from me. Thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed watching. I'll see you later.